Te Omnis. I'm author D.L. Wainright, and welcome to Mythic Monday, where we discuss different creatures and figures from folklore and mythology all over the world. Today, we'll be talking about the horned serpent, which can be found in many Native American tribes, especially in Central and Eastern North America. Now, it's important to keep in mind when talking about Native American lore that there are over 560 federally recognized tribes today, and likely there were even more back in pre-Columbian times. So there is no such thing as a single universal Native American folklore or mythology. And really, there'll be similarities only because they interact with each other, as is the case when it comes to any type of folklore and mythology anywhere in the world. If you have peoples who talk to each other, they'll usually share some of their beliefs. So anyway, back to the whole horned serpent thing. They tend to share a few similarities throughout the different lores. Basically, they're described as being giant snakes with antlers. Sometimes more moose-like, sometimes more deer-like. Also, they all tend to not like lightning very much and or have issues with certain birds, most commonly a type of thunderbird. And they all typically hang out in deep, dark water. Oh, and they're usually all, though not always, thought to be bad dudes. You generally aren't supposed to trust a horned serpent, though at the same time, they are often respected and thought to be sources of great power. Jipijka'm from Micmac doesn't have antlers, though. It has a single red and yellow horn, which is very magical. Though, honestly, part of me thinks that this whole variant is actually a metaphor for something else, as the Canadian Museum of History website describes it as a worm an inch long, which can make itself into a horrid monster as large as a deer, yes, and much larger. And the accompanying picture looks a lot like a, yeah. The Cherokee horned serpent is the Uktena, which is known for its sparkling, colorful bands and a stunning, iridescent crystal on its forehead. The jewel is incredibly powerful, and many will face certain death trying to obtain one. If you do get your hands on one, it has to be stored very carefully. Usually wrapped in a deer skin, then stored in an earthen jar, and then hidden somewhere secret like a cave, and then also moved around regularly. You also have to constantly feed it animal blood, rub it all over the gemstone. If you fail to do this, then the gem will fly around to seek out blood, including human blood, including potentially your blood. So even if you manage to survive the horrifying Uktena, it might still kill you with its gem. Sometimes young ladies have gotten very intimate with horned serpents, and wow, does that sound bad, but it is actually pretty accurate. Cheyenne lore has a story with a woman who has an affair with a Mehne, which is their version of the horned serpent, and it doesn't really end well for her, because when her husband finds out, he chops her and her serpentine lover into pieces and then feeds her to her children. The Passamaquoddy lore has a woman who had a pretty long-term affair with one of their horned serpents, which they call Kci-Athussos. Kci-Athussos. I hope I got that right. By doing this, it ends up transferring the venom into her body, and the only way that she can get rid of the venom is by laying with her husband. So she went through like 5 husbands in a year, because ultimately the venom kills the husband. Until her 6th husband figured out what was going on by use of trickery and spying on her, and when it came time for them to sleep together, he was like, nah, you go stay on your own bed, and by morning she was dead. So basically, I'd say the moral of these stories is don't have an affair with a horned serpent. That seems fair. There are, however, stories of women getting together with horned serpents through marriage, which you would think is a better idea, or at least would end better for them. But it doesn't really. Well, okay, no, I take that back. It ends better for the woman, but not so much for the horned serpent. No, no. For the Iroquois Oniare, his bride freaks out when she finds out his true nature and runs away. Then she gets help from Mehne, the Thunderer, who then strikes down the husband and the other horned serpents who were pursuing her. She goes on to live happily ever after, and then also because Mehne is like her grandfather, she like helps him out every now and then to go fight other monsters. So that's pretty cool. But not so cool. Not so cool for her husband. Then there's the Misiginebig. Then there's the Misiginebig of the Anishinabe, who took the form of a very handsome young man and married a lovely young lady. And he was a wonderful husband and a fantastic hunter, and his wife got along so well with his sister and his mother, who were, of course, also taking human form. And everything was going great until the wife found out his true nature, and then she, like in the other story, freaked out and ran away. And also, like in the other story, ended up getting assistance from a thunderer. The thunder spirit then struck down her husband and took her away to his island, where she then married one of his 3 sons and had her own child, had a little boy. But she wasn't happy, and so she returned to the human world and brought her little boy with her. But because of the little boy's recklessness, because, if he's a little thunderer himself and he fired an arrow and accidentally set stuff on fire, whoopsie doodles, she then ends up being alone because the thunderer takes the little boy away. And so she spends the rest of her days kind of okay, but really missing that first husband she had, the horned serpent, because he was actually a really great guy. And the moral of that story is kind of along the lines of, don't just jump to hasty conclusions about things, because you could miss out on the greatest thing that's ever happened to you. So that's really kind of sad, actually, that one is. There are many other stories about the horned serpents, but that is all the time we have today. Here are some other names for horned serpents and their affiliated tribes. I encourage you to look into your own research on them and any creature we discuss on Mythic Monday. NativeLanguages.org is a fantastic resource for all things Native American. That's native-languages.org. The link will be in the description as well. They're a great jumping-off point for research and often will provide links to related articles or book recommendations. If you want to read a fiction book with a horned serpent, the Uktena becomes a prominent character in my book series, starting with the second book. The series is The Hollow Sun. The second book is Fractured Masks, though you might want to read the first just to know what's going on. So, yeah. Don't forget to subscribe so you can catch future episodes of Mythic Monday. See you next time.